Welcome back to Spirit Sherpa, the show that helps you unlock your magic mojo. I am your host, Kelle Sparta, transformational shaman, spiritual business coach. And Josh is not here today. Instead, I have a friend with me today, April Adams, and I'll tell you about her in a minute. But today we're going to talk about uh, getting out of your own way emotionally using subconscious techniques. And April is very skilled at this. I met April. We were discussing this before we started podcasting, and we were trying to decide how we met, and neither one of us could exactly remember how we met. We are pretty sure it was networking, and then we did some stuff together, and we had some lunch together, and we hung out together, and then we just stayed friends online. And I haven't been in Boston in 8 years, so we know it was at least 8 years ago. And we're just like, yeah, I got nothing. So here we are. And April's doing some really cool stuff. She's starting a new community, and I think you guys are going to love it. And so we'll talk to you about that at the end. So stay tuned for that. And so April is you just gave me a new title, and I just had to remember all the things that I don't normally do that Josh normally does. And so my brain didn't hold it. So I apologize. But welcome to the show, April, and tell us your title.
Thank you. Yes, I am an emotional health consultant.
Yes, I knew yeah, that's what she said. I remembered and I liked it, and then my brain went, "Nope." So, that's how we go. That's how we roll here. It's all good. We're just fumbling our way through, and life is good. So,
Yeah,
you wanna give people a little history about you and who you are and what you're doing so that they have a
sure.
sense of where you're coming from? Because you're gonna share some really cool stuff with us today, and I'm excited to hear it, but let's let them know that you actually have a clue what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So for the past 10 years or so, I've been really focused on working with the subconscious mind. And I tend to work with women who do massive amounts of work on themselves and still end up with like knee-jerk reactions that they don't wanna be having, responses to things that they know logically don't make sense, negative thought loops that won't stop, and they do all of the things, the mindfulness and talking themselves down and positive reframing and all of the millions of things that are recommended to us, and they still can't make it stop, and so I've been showing them how to get out of their own way and be able to break those patterns, typically in just minutes each, and that's, by using a combination of different things that I've learned throughout the years, but primarily with brief targeted interventions that just help to convince the subconscious that you're safe where it perceives a threat so you can just move on from things. So, throughout the years previous to using these brief targeted interventions, I had been doing hypnosis, EFT, Reiki, spiritual life coaching, and developed my own energy healing methods and modalities and all of that. But as I was finding that when I was doing Reiki on people, and doing spiritual coaching with them, that they would feel great for a week or 2 after our sessions, but then they would come back at the 3-week mark. So that was about my flow, it was about every 3 weeks or so. They would come back and they had put back on the same exact issue that they, thought they had resolved last time we saw each other. And it was just this repetitive thing, and I was even finding that with myself and my own issues. And I started to just ask the universe and if just looking for guidance of how do we actually just dig up the whole damn onion and throw it away instead of having to peel back layer after layer after layer? Because that's really the line that we're fed all the time. You have to just keep peeling back the layers. And it gets exhausting. So finally being able to yeah, yeah. So finally being able to sit down with a particular issue for like 10 or 20 minutes and then move on from it for good was kind of astonishing. But, how I got there was that, I was asking the universe for the guidance, and all I heard after that point was deal with the subconscious mind, deal with the subconscious mind over and over and over again. Finally found the tools that I've been using and never looked back because it actually resolved my lifelong issues in about 20 minutes, which was jaw dropping after years and years of working on the same thing over and over again. And then started introducing my clients to it and seeing those same kinds of transitions with them. So after that point, I that was became my main focus in everything I did.
Yeah, I imagine that would be the thing that you just go, "Oh, well, shit, that worked," right? So,
Right.
yeah. Um, so I'm hearing a question from the audience, which is, how is what you're doing different than EMDR?
Yeah. So there is some similarity, and actually, there is an element of EMDR in the therapy. And I've been to some degree referring to it as EMDR on crack. But actually, because
That would be why I heard the EMDR in
yes,
there. I was like, "That's a
yes,
weird question. Why am I hearing that?" Okay, that makes sense. That's
yes.
hysterical.
Because there is absolutely, there are elements of hypnosis, EMDR, EFT, NLP, pattern interrupt, Pavlovian brain retraining. So it's like we've taken everything plus the kitchen sink and put it all in one tool, and just taking the most effective aspects of all of those things, leaving out the weakest aspects of all of those things, so that we're kind of getting things at the root and taking care of them really quickly and easily. So
And
it's
this is why we cross-discipline people. This is
yes,
why we do that, because if you only study in one silo, you're stuck with only what's in that silo. But when you
right,
go across disciplines and you pay attention to everything, then they all start to talk to each other. And then you can do exactly what you've done, which is take everything that had been here and bring it up to the next level,
exactly.
right?
Yes,
That's
yes,
exactly that's why I have studied so many things. I know you have too. And that's when we're at this stage in our process, we can start integrating in that fashion and oh, there's a word for synthesizing
yes,
everything, right? So yeah,
yes.
that's amazing. So let's talk about getting out of your own way emotionally and
Mhm.
sing the subconscious, right? Because that's what we've promised for this. We might as well talk about
Yes,
a novel concept,
right. Yeah.
So if you were to now, of course, we're not going to talk about your proprietary processes because that's what you teach and what you do. But there's a process, right? And I do this in my work because I've taken the 50 different things that I had to go through year after year of
Mm,
integration and evolution and revisiting and revisiting and revisiting. And so, in my programs, I just sort of shove it all into one program and say, okay, now you're going to do them all at once. So you don't have to do the iterative process, right? Um, so you're doing it on a subconscious level, right? So
right.
tell me how, tell me the difference there. Tell me what you're doing. I'm taking all the concepts and working with the conscious mind to affect
Mhm.
the subconscious mind. You're
Right.
going into the subconscious mind and doing a direct impact. How do you find that that works with people's conscious minds? Because my people tend to be, not everybody, but most are control freaks. And we like
Mhm.
to understand and know and understand and know and understand, right? You need to understand. And if you're working with our subconscious minds and not our conscious minds are going to be like, this is my habit. This is what I think. And I don't understand why it's not this way anymore. And I recognize that
Right.
it's not this way, but I don't understand. And I want to understand, right? So,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And
uh,
so
you have those people.
typically for myself, I tend to only work with people who have already done the conscious work,
Okay.
because I don't have it in me to sit around arguing with somebody about, the value that they see in their anger or in their sense of victimhood or repeating patterns that they see as part of their identity. For me, people who want to work with me are people who've already done the work to get out of those patterns on the conscious level. But what they end up doing is battling with their own brains all the time, because now they consciously understand how they should be thinking, feeling, reacting, behaving, but they can't seem to actually make it happen.
Okay. So are
So
you
they have all of this beautiful conscious wisdom, but they can't seem to actually shift there all the way. So they're still having the reactions that they don't want. They're still repeating the patterns that they don't want to be repeating. They're still returning to negative thought loops or carrying resentment when they don't want to be carrying resentment anymore. And so part of their brain is going, no, this is how I truly believe and see the world, and this is how I should be behaving and reacting. And then the other half of them is just falling back into those old patterns, and they keep feeling like half of them is enlightened and half of them is still stuck in the mud. And this is essentially a process that helps to finally get their whole brain in that same place of wisdom that they've been working to get to on the conscious level.
So would you say that some of this, so it sounds like, because, as somebody who's done the conscious work, right? Um, I will say that I don't have a lot of repeating patterns that are coming up.
Mm,
I have, there's a few, but more it was a somatic response that was hitting me
yes.
hard, right?
Yep.
So I'm assuming that you're doing some work on the somatics, right? Because
Absolutely.
when I learned how to do a vagus nerve reset, it was like night and day for my life. I was just like, the skies
Yes.
parted, the sun came out. I was like, who knew? Right?
Well, right. Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I literally had a transcendent experience. I was like, all the stress just melted out of my body. It was
Mm,
like, what happened? And I didn't think I was stressed when it was happening. I was like, wow, I was super stressed and I didn't even know. So,
right.
yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
assuming that there's a somatic aspect to this, right?
Absolutely. There is. And what's really interesting about this is it's like a shortcut to getting there because a lot of times with somatic therapies and nervous system practices and all of that, it's like catching the reaction and having to calm it repeatedly, which very helpful to be able to do. But as far as I'm concerned, it's more vital to find why is my body reacting like that? Why am I having either an emotional or physiological response to something? Healing that at its root on the subconscious level so the subconscious no longer sees that as a threat and reacts to it so that you're no longer having to calm your nervous system around things that you typically would have had to calm down from because you're resolving it and not just basically playing whack-a-mole with the reactions that you're having as they arise.
Yeah. Well, that's perfect timing because the last episode we just did was about, resetting your nervous system.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, there is nothing wrong with that. That's really important skill for people to have while they're doing this because, I mean, you're not gonna instantly cure every single thing that bothers you in a 10 or 20-minute session. So, you do need tools to be able to calm yourself in the moment, when you can't use one of the audio tracks or tools that I would teach. Sometimes you're gonna be at work or driving or something, and you're going to need to have the skill to be able to calm yourself in the moment, but it's also then important to go, "Okay, what was I reacting to? Where did that come from? Let me go resolve that so that it doesn't sneak up on me again in the future."
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, let's go into a discussion about the subconscious mind and why the subconscious mind is powerful in this environment. So, you've done hypnotherapy for years. So, you've been working with the subconscious mind for freaking ever. And, as a shaman, I do a lot of work with people on, I use archetypal processes to access the
Yeah.
subconscious mind, right? And that's
Mhm.
the rituals that people walk through. And, when you can engage people at a level that is oftentimes in ritual space, you're triggering archetypes from people's childhoods, right? It's like the sense of the divine mother, the divine father, right? These roles that are played out in childhood, right? And so this is where all the ancient wisdom stuff comes from, is the archetypal processes, the subconscious mind, the collective unconscious, and Jungian psychology, and all of these things. Well, collective unconscious is a little different, but it's related, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So, let's talk about why that's so powerful, and so different than working with your conscious mind.
Yeah. And so, I mean, the conscious mind is just the logical part of our brain, which is not what controls our emotions. So, we can plan a party or do a math problem with our logical brain, but we can't really fix an emotional problem by sitting there trying to logic our way through it. We can
Although we try.
understand, yes, we can understand all of the reasons why we react to something and how to calm down from it, but none of that is going to stop the reaction from happening or stop our brain from trying to loop on that topic over and over again until we feel like we have it absolutely solved. So we have to deal with the fear center in the brain. And so a lot of people kind of get weary when you talk about the subconscious mind. And so I want to get kind of clear on what I'm talking about. Like some people will refer to it as the nervous system. It is part of the nervous system.
Not exactly.
It's kind of like what kicks the nervous system off, essentially. But some people will call it the lizard brain. Some people will, refer to the amygdala itself. And it's all part of the same process because, when we see something or smell something or hear something that sets us off, or even when we think something that sets us off. So sometimes it's a conscious thing that we recognize I'm being triggered by this thing. Sometimes it's something we don't even consciously recognize,
And I
but
have been
then
through
that
all of that.
yeah.
I
And
have
the
a great
fear
example
center
of
in the
that.
brain, just like it starts going off, it goes, "Oh my gosh, this is a threat.
Yeah.
This could cause us harm. This reminds us of something bad that we've experienced in the past, or this is something horribly unfamiliar, and I don't feel safe in this situation." And then suddenly our nervous system is flaring up and all kinds of bells and whistles are going off, whether we know why or not.
Yes. And I have a classic example of that because my mother only got paid once a month in my childhood. And so at the beginning of the month, we had tons of food. We'd make huge amounts of food, stick things in the freezer, whatever, whatever. By the end of the month, the refrigerator was getting empty. And I would hear her for the last week and a half of every month going, "We're broke, we're broke, we're broke, we're broke." And somehow my brain made the association that an empty refrigerator means I'm broke.
Yeah.
And so now, if I have an empty refrigerator, no matter how much money is sitting in my bank account, I feel broke, right? And so I just fill my fridge because I came to understand that it was easier than trying to fix it, right? Just keep the fridge full, right? But it took me years to
That's an
recognize that
avoidance tactic. Yeah. That's, like, and
some things are
so
worth fixing and some things are worth just compensating for.
yeah.
I'm not sure that's worth fixing. It's like, fill my fridge and it'll be fine.
It's
But that's the thing is you gotta figure out what's worth the effort, right?
right.
So unless you're gonna tell
Yep.
me that you think it's associated with
Yeah.
something else, in which case that's worth fixing. But I haven't found it to be associated. So
Yeah. I mean, if it's something that causes a problem, then it may be something worth working on. But if it doesn't cause a problem for you, then,
not if my fridge is full.
unnecessary. Yeah.
As long as my fridge is full, I'm fine. If it's empty, I tell my husband to get things out of the fridge until we can go to the store.
I can't look in there.
I'm like, "No, yeah, can't look in the fridge. You got to go get it for me. Better
Well,
yet, go to the store."
we could probably take care of that discomfort in about 10 or 20 minutes for you if you are interested in experiencing that. So,
I might pick something different, but yeah.
yeah.
So, but yeah, so these things, when we're working on the subconscious level, one of the primary benefits is getting out of the way of the conscious mind, right?
Right.
And because the conscious mind will throw up roadblocks. It's
Yeah.
full of resistances. It's like, oh, I don't want to do that. I might have to change. And oh, I don't want to do that. That might make me have to feel something. And oh, oh, oh. Or no, it's not this. It's fine. It's fine
Mhm.
because we don't want to pay attention to the fact that we're in pain. There's lots of reasons why the conscious mind will resist. Or, if I do this, then I won't be like my family and I won't belong anymore. And where there's so many resistances, right?
Yeah.
And the subconscious mind doesn't have that. The subconscious mind is in the present all the time, except when it's being triggered into the past. That's
Right.
where the brain gets involved, right? But the subconscious mind is just present, and it doesn't. It's like a hypnotic state, right? If you can access it,
Mhm.
we talk
Yeah.
about hypnosis getting in under the radar, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's the thing is that you're suggestible. Your
Right.
subconscious mind is suggestible.
Mhm.
And so to be what I've found, and I wanna know this answer from you because I know you've done a lot of work. Um, I have found that as I've gotten further into my process and I've dealt with more of my stuff, that I have become both less and more suggestible at
Mm,
the same time. That like I'm more suggestible, but my brain kicks in and goes, "Wait a minute, is that the right thing?" Right? But my default is, "Ooh, yes." Right? I'm a yes girl. Right? And that's become more and more true as I've gotten more and more into my work. I've
mhm.
always been a little bit of an adventurer, but back then it was very much reckless yes. And now it's
Right.
much more inspired yes. Right? Yeah.
And that's a huge distinction.
Yes. So, have you noticed that as you've done more work that you've become more suggestible in some ways?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And even just doing the work that I do, I used to have to actually sit with the issue and feel every ounce of it and marinate in it while I was doing the process to heal it. And now a lot of the times I can just tell my brain, like, hey, track that for me. And it'll automatically do the process without even having to sit there and process it. 'Cause my brain just like it has the whole process memorized. So yeah, if it feels safe enough to do it, then it'll just take care of it for me, and I can just instruct it to. Sometimes it's more like I can just start the audio, and within a minute or 2, the thing is cleared up and moved on from, where in the beginning, it often takes, 1 to 3 rounds to clear something, so you're sitting there for maybe up to a half hour to clear something, but once your brain gets used to it and knows the process, sometimes you can just instruct it to do the thing on its own in the background and move on.
Which I love. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, it's anytime you're grooving a process, the more you
Mhm.
groove it, the more there's muscle memory to it, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
so the less effort it takes on your body's part to do, right?
Yeah.
And you
Same thing with, meditation or even dipping into that more hypnotic state. People ask me, like, what do you do to get there? And I'm like, I've done it so many times. I just tell myself to get there and I get there. So for
uh,
me, it's just this instantaneous thing, but it was a muscle memory thing and definitely something I had to ingrain in for, a long time with some practice.
it's very interesting because, I did a retreat last week and we were doing a ritual as part of the retreat and the I was training the people at the retreat to do ritual. And so we opened the space and they were commenting on how easy it was to drop into what was a deep meditational space, but just instantly they dropped in. And I'm like, yeah, that's because you set the container for sacred
Right.
space. And that container holds the memory of every person who's ever done sacred space work.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
therefore, all the energy of being in that meditative space and holding space for others space, right? And it's so easy to just drop in and be in this no thought place and just be present because that's the container is holding and creating that energy, and all you have to do is drop into it, right? And
Right.
so there are ways to access and activate that at a deeper level, especially if you're trying to get to that place. It's, setting up a container for it can be super helpful. And
Right.
for those of you who haven't done that, go back to episode 4, where I open the circle for you and remember to close the circle when you're done. Okay. You gotta turn the podcast back on again to close the circle when you're done. Okay. And that'll help. Okay. So
Yes.
yeah, but when we're talking subconscious stuff, there's also some danger
Mm.
because you've got to trust the practitioner
Yeah.
because,
Yeah.
you're suggestible and they can insert things into your mind when you're in a suggestible state, which is, that whole MK Ultra
Yeah.
stuff and
Right.
stuff like that. Now, you
Yeah.
can't get somebody to do something that they wouldn't naturally do on their own, like, kill somebody. But, you know,
Right. Yeah.
can
Yeah.
get them to take
It should,
off their shoe and
yeah,
smell
and
it, on
that's the
stage.
thing, yeah. When you start talking about hypnosis, everybody's like, "Or am I gonna be barking like a dog after this?" It's just ridiculous how the perception of hypnosis has been ruined by stage magicians and hypnotists and stuff doing that kind of thing because
I had to
that's
ask.
not what it's all about. Yeah. Yeah, and so, fascinating we've been talking about hypnotic states because The tools that I use actually use completely wakeful hypnosis where you are completely awake, aware, alert, aware. There's no drowsiness associated with it at all. It's instead of making the conscious mind all sleepy and dopey so that you can sneak into the subconscious, basically, your conscious mind is given a job to do that
Like
keeps it
that.
busy. And
Yeah.
so there's sounds that are kind of played intermittently throughout the track at random, and you're supposed to do specific actions to those sounds as they're played, while you're also focusing on the problem at hand. And then the instructions on the track to your subconscious mind are just kind of looping in the background the whole time. So you're kind of getting the bilateral stimulation like you would with EMDR. You're getting suggestion to your brain like you would with hypnosis, but you are a completely active participant and you are specifically thinking of exactly the thing that you want to clear. So you're in control and in the driver's seat through the whole thing. And there's no subliminal messaging. There's no binaural beats or anything like that. It's just like you are 100% in control and know exactly what's going on every step of the way, which is nice for the control freaks in the audience.
That is such a nice, dovetail. So, we were actually scheduled to do this podcast, like, a month ago,
Yeah.
and I was not feeling well on the day that we needed to do it, and I postponed. Well, it's so interesting that we're doing it now. Of course, everything's perfect timing because what you just described is basically a labyrinth ritual. A labyrinth
Mm,
ritual is where you are being present and walking very slowly and contemplating at the same time, where the movement you are making physically through space is creating movement within the thought processes and the energetic shifts and the whole thing, right? And, what you just described is a different version of labyrinth ritual, which I
mhm.
love. And
Yeah.
we did not talk about this beforehand. I'm
No.
super excited. So
Yeah.
it's amazing. And of course it happened because I didn't know a month ago that that's what I was going to be doing at the retreat. The spirit didn't tell me until the week before. So
I love that.
doing this and I'm like, okay.
Good surprise.
So yeah, so I wouldn't have been able to talk to you about it and say that. So obviously that was relevant and that's why we had to wait to do this interview. So I'm super excited about that.
Yeah.
Right. So
That's
okay,
awesome.
we've been talking about this. What do you call this?
So the tools themselves are brief targeted interventions and the tools currently, so I kind of have an interesting history with these tools because originally the brief targeted interventions I was working with were called PS Tech, and they were created by a British hypnotherapist in the UK. And they were phenomenal tools and wonderful. And then another British company bought them out, and now that's not being managed in the best ways possible and everything. But I had been helping them to develop their practitioner training platform and all kinds of stuff like that and made some connections through them. So, about 2.5 years ago, I partnered with a therapist in Canada, and we have created our own brief targeted interventions. And people who've tried both the old system and our new system are finding even better results and um, less resistance because the original tools were dismissive of feelings in general. And so a lot of therapists were really anti these tools because validation is a huge part of therapy. And so to suddenly be giving patients tools that were invalidating their feelings didn't really go over well with a huge part of the people who could be benefiting from it. And so we have found a way to get the same level or even better emotional release with things and resolving issues by not dismissing feelings in that way. And so, it's a kinder, gentler version of brief targeted intervention that gets beautiful results pretty quickly. So the tools should be available to the general public this spring sometime. So spring 2026 is the target of when the Remind app will be available. It's like re-mind.co. Um, eh, that's still all in the works, and of course, with any kind of startup, especially a tech startup, things can be, put off, so, we're aiming for March or April 2026, but hopefully at the very latest by summer, those tools would be available with a little intro mini course and stuff like that, so that people are able to get to those tools and, experience that for themselves.
Okay. And so, guys, if you want to be reminded about this, because this episode is due to air, I think, sometime in March. So if you want to be reminded, make sure you get on my mailing list. And April will let me know when it's happening, and I will send out a notice and reminder on the newsletter. And that way you'll be able to get there. And there's a link in the show notes to get onto the mailing list. And we'll also link to April's new community, which is called
Yes, it's called Therapy Results Accelerator, and it's on School, Skool.
okay, Therapy Results Accelerator. We will put a link to that in the show notes here as well. And by the way, guys, I'm in there too. So I'm chatting with people in there and helping April with her, facilitation. So we're having a good time together and doing that stuff. And so your stuff is best done by people who have done their work, right? Or
Yes,
are in the midst of doing, deep work, right? And so if
absolutely.
you haven't done your work yet, but that sounds like fun, right? Come and do the Welcome to the Woo. So do the Woo series with me and then do the work
Yes,
with April, right?
yes.
And then that
Get your
way,
conscious mind right first.
yes. Yeah. And so, get that in place and then you can do the it's really kind of a cleanup is what it feels like, right? It's like
Yes,
whatever's left that it hasn't given to everything else is just you do the little
right.
cleanup process of that,
Yeah,
right? Which
yeah,
which a little bit of cleanup goes a long way at that level. So yeah,
right.
yeah. And
Yeah,
so,
I mean, this is
if it
kind of for
hasn't moved in all the work you've done, then it's going to be significant when it
right.
does, right?
Yeah, this tends to be that missing piece in therapy and other techniques. It's just like you get to a certain point and you plateau.
Yeah.
And you just kind of feel like, well, I know that I should be a little further along or I should be able to accomplish all the things that I wanted to, and I can't get there. And so this is that final little piece to actually make it happen on autopilot instead of having to constantly babysit your brain and talk yourself down and redirect and redirect and redirect. So I know everybody's always talking about like you have to develop that muscle. You have to keep retraining your brain and talking sense to it and catching it in the act and redirecting, and it's exhausting.
Yeah.
And so this makes it so you don't have to do all of that. So it's like it's that last little piece that actually makes all of the work you've done on yourself work.
Love it. Love it. So it sounds like not only would it be good for people who are doing their own work, but it would be good for people who are facilitating for others.
Right.
And that may be something if you're looking to pick up an extra skill for your coaching practice or your therapy practice or your holistic practice, that this might be an additional skill to pick up. Would that be valid?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And that's exactly who I've set up the Therapy Results Accelerator for, is any kind of practitioner who wants to first level up their own emotional well-being and make all the work they've done on themselves work. But then, if you love it, then you might want to also apply it with your own clients and patients and help them level up too and let everything that you teach them already finally click in and just get easier for them.
Yeah. Which who doesn't want to provide better results? Absolutely. Why would you
Yeah,
not want to do that? And if it
of
works for
course.
you, then you're definitely going to want to share it anyway, right? That's
Yeah.
that's how most people do it is they're like, "Well, I'll try it on me and see if it works." Right?
Yes.
Yeah. I do
Right.
that all the time. You'd be shocked how many things I don't tell you about.
We are our own greatest guinea pigs.
You know? Yes. Well, this has been amazing, April. And is there anything else? Where can people find you? Let's start there. Where can people find
So my website is apriladams.org.
you? Okay.
So you can find me there. And then also I'm on Instagram, April Adams Emotion Coach, and same on TikTok, April Adams Emotion Coach. I'm on Facebook too, but nah.
Yes, Facebook toxic. We're on it because we have to be, but Facebook toxic. Yeah. Really good.
Under protest.
Yes. Yeah. Well, hell, I'm on most of social media under protest. Let's be real.
Right.
Except for
Yeah.
TikTok. Still addicted
I love yeah, your
love
TikTok is
TikTok,
fun.
and even though it's not as good as it used to be, but yeah.
Mhm. Right.
Well, awesome. So, guys, we're going to put all this stuff in the show notes for you. If you are at all interested in facilitating for others, then please join the community, and we'll have the link in the show notes for that. And reach out to April, get on her mailing list, get on my mailing list. You'll get reminded when everything launches, so that you can get access to these amazing tools. And thanks for coming out, April. This was great.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate you having me.
My pleasure. And guys, remember, what you focus on expands, what you intend is what you create. So choose wisely.